Welcome to Archiversity online classes. In this lecture, I am going to show you how to calculate multicollinearity between and among independent variables. Multicollinearity is a major problem in multiple regression analysis, or also in logistic regression and multi-level modeling. In all these areas, multicollinearity may create problems for you. So before running an analysis of multiple independent variables, you need to verify the multicollinearity between and among independent variables. Now I'll show you this with an example using IBM SPSS statistics. Now collinearity is where there is a correlation or association between two predictors or independent variables. This we call as a collinearity. That means when there is a correlation or association between two independent variables, we call this as a collinearity. And on the other hand, a multicollinearity is an association between more than two predictors or independent variables in a regression model. So that means if you have only two independent variables, that is IV1 and IV2, so we call this as collinearity. And if you have more than two, that is IV1, independent variable 2, independent variable 3 and independent variable 4, this we call as a multicollinearity. That is the association. If there is any association or a correlation between these four variables, then we call this as multicollinearity. And if there is a correlation or association between two variables, then we call this as a collinearity. And now the issue is that multicollinearity and collinearity are problems for a range of statistical tests, including multi-level modeling, logistic regression, multiple linear regressions and all. So there are three key impacts of multicollinearity on the development of a multiple regression model. So firstly, collinearity increases. That is, as the collinearity increases, so do the standard errors of beta coefficient. In the sense, if collinearity increases, standard errors of beta coefficient will also increase. Now what happens is this leads to a greater variance of beta coefficients, which will make them unrepresentative of the sample population. This is one impact. And second is that the signs, that is a positive or a negative associated with the regression coefficient, may be contrary to what expected. So you may be expecting a positive, but you may get a negative result, or if you are expecting a negative, but you may get a positive. This is another impact of multicollinearity. And lastly, it is possible that for the model to be statistically significant, even though none of the individual coefficients are significant. In the sense, if you have a independent variable 1, independent variable 2 and independent variable 3, and you have a dependent variable 1, so individually these may not have any significant impact on dependent variable 1. But if there is a collinearity, then together all these may have statistically significant impact on dependent variable. So this gives you a spurious outcome. So this is a third impact of multicollinearity. Now how is that you are going to detect multicollinearity is the simple way is to use a statistical software like IBM SPSS to identify the multicollinearity. Now this can be done along with your regression model. Now the multicollinearity diagnostics, when you run a multicollinearity test using IBM SPSS, you will get two different types of values. One is a variance inflation factor, also called as VIF, and the second one is a tolerance statistic. So this is a tolerant statistics. So the IBM SPSS procedure in its output will give you these two values. One is the VIF along with the tolerance statistics. And along with these two, eigenvalues are also given, but the results, if you are interpreting VIF and a tolerance, eigenvalues are also give the same result. So to minimize, we concentrate on VIF and tolerance statistics. Now if the largest VIF, so here the largest VIF is greater than 10 or the tolerance below 0.1, then we can say that there is a multicollinearity. So this is greater than 10 and less than 0.1 of a tolerance will give you a multicollinearity. On the other hand, if the average VIF is substantially greater than 1, so here next is that average, because you have a multiple variables. So we look at the average. if the average VAF is substantially greater than 1 and our tolerance is below 0.2. So this is related with the average. So if you calculate the average, then it should be substantially greater than 1, that is a VAF, and your tolerance will be less than 0.2. In that case also we can say that there is a multicollinearity. Now, what do we need any assumptions for this multicollinearity? Because multicollinearity is not a statistical test as such, therefore has no specific assumptions. So we don't have any assumptions related to a multicollinearity test. When we test for multicollinearity, we do assume that our data are randomly selected and continuous or on a interval scale. So these are the two basic requirements of any quantitative data. Based on these factors, now I'll show you how to run a multicollinearity test in IBM SPSS using an example. So here is our data set. Here we have 4 variables. One is a group variable, binary, confidence, then parent criticalness, and suppressive coping behavior of students. Now these, look at the first one, that is a group. This is your lower functioning, disorganized and high functioning, and this is measured on a nominal scale. Whereas a binary confidence, so high confidence and low confidence, this is again measured on a nominal scale. Then you have a parent criticism, this is measured on a scale, and a suppressive coping behavior of a student. So what is it we are going to run is that, so student suppressiveness is influenced by these 3 factors. That is, your dependent variable is student suppressive coping behavior, and whereas your independent variables are a group, binary confidence and parent criticism. As you have 3 variables, independent variables here, we need to check for a multicollinearity. So to check a multicollinearity, go to analyze, then regression, then linear regression. So here your suppressive coping behavior of a student is a dependent variable, and these 3 are independent variables, group, binary and criticism. Send them to independent variables. Then go to statistics. So here check for a collinearity diagnostics. So in a linear regression window, just click on a collinearity diagnostics, then click continue, then click OK. So the result is presented in output document, as we are not interested in statistical significance of this model, regression model. So we just pay attention towards the collinearity statistics. Here our collinearity statistics are there. So for in case of a group, the tolerance is 0.857. Normally we are saying that if the tolerance value is 0.1, then we say that there is a collinearity. But here it is a 0.857. Then your binary confidence is 0.9 and the parent criticism is 0.87. So all these are very high than a 0.1, so which clearly indicates that multicollinearity is not a problem in this scenario. Similarly, your VAF statistics, which is simply a reciprocal of your tolerance value. So just I'll show you for one. So here we take a calculator, and then your tolerance value is 0.857. So your VIF will be 1 upon 0.857. So 1.1668. So this is your VIF. So VIF is simply a inverse value of a tolerance value. So here, even if you look at the values also, this gives the same, saying that the multicollinearity is not at all a problem in this case. This is one. And second is that you have to check with the average. So in this case, the average of tolerance is 0.857 plus 0.903 plus 0.879, and this upon 3. So 0.88. Even this is also very higher than 0.2, because the average, we are saying that average should be below 0.2. So here you can say that the average should be below 0.2, which is greater than 0.2, which is 8. So based on the average values also, we can confidently say that multicollinearity is not a problem in this particular data set. That means there is no significant correlation or association between or among 3 independent variables which we considered for this study. This is how you need to perform multicollinearity analysis and interpret the output. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the lecture.